Good morning, good morning. Welcome to our last meeting of 2017. I'd like to welcome back Dick from his, I think it was... Okay, do we have any new members or guests here?
Yes.
Okay. Introduce, please. Okay. Did you have to talk for him? Any other new members? Any new guests here? Old guests, oh, okay. Please just mention who you are and where you're from.
Mike Emlacher, Marlton, retired physician for years.
Thank you. Thank you.
We have a doctor in the house.
One type of doctor,
Okay. On your tables, you'll see something on your tables. There's a pamphlet. We went to the Man of the Year dinner, and they have, just as an example, some of the people that received awards for the Man of the Year. So it'd be interesting just to take a look and see why they received it and who they were and what synagogues represented them. It was an interesting dinner. That's about the best I'm going to say. When we have breakfast, again, I ask those who have a physical disability or have trouble getting up to the table, please go up there first, and for the rest of you, please give them a chance to at least get to the table. Let's see, we're going to make a motzi. Would one of our guests like to make the motzi? Anybody want to volunteer between the three of you, among the three of you? Motzi. Fatah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen. Business will be pretty quick. Ed Stein, where are you?
Shirts. For those new members who got their tags this morning, and I think somebody's going to come up and distribute them. In fact, here he comes now. Anyway, if you haven't gotten a shirt and you're a new member, see me after, or Mel. I see Mel's here. I didn't see him before. I'm Mel's committee. Come up and get your short sleeve shirt that you're entitled to with your new membership. For those people who want the long sleeve, they're here. I think I have almost a dozen left. We can order again. I have most sizes. They run large. This is a medium. So you can see that these are $25. And there's no discounts. And entertainment books, I had about 5 of them. They're sold. If you want an entertainment book, I'm going to order again probably into January. The price should be, they were $13 today. They could be less even then. So just send me an email, or we'll send an email out before the next meeting, and you can let me know, and I'll buy as many as you need. I think that's it. No, not working?
Yeah.
Working? Yep.
Yeah, you got to talk into it.
Okay, Dick, Dick Knopf, membership.
New members, Michael Conrad, come on up.
That's a size small.
Here you go. We take a picture over here.
Hold on, why don't we do them all at once?
All at once, all right, just hold on to your thing.
Get half price.
Howard Richards, are you here? Hey.
Keep calling them.
Okay.
I'll get there.
Here you go.
You can rip off
Yes.
your nameplate.
You can get rid of your name tag right up there. Mark Friedrich.
Talking to the mic.
Mark Friedrich. Mark, are you here? No, Mark's not here. Irv Snyder.
Not here.
Glenn Ash. Hey, Glenn. Here you go. Speed. Come on up. Thank you. Ben Burke, Benjamin Burke, are you here? There he is. Yeah.
It's got a tag already. How come it's got a tag already?
Yeah, how come you have a tag already? Here, give me that one. Duplicates, Irv Snyder.
Not here.
Not here. Oh, I mentioned him already. And Barry Abrams, isn't he?
Right here, I got one.
What are you? I don't do. Yeah, we're duplicates, all right. Okay. You want this back? No, I don't want it back, but you can hold on to it. All right, so are we going to take a photo of this group?
I'd like to call up Abe Furtis tomorrow. As most of you know, we are having our Coping with Christmas luncheon at the Voorhees Diners, so Abe will give you the final instructions.
So we have 55 people coming, which is a record, I think. I don't know, I haven't been here long enough. It's in the Voorhees Diner. Make sure it's a long ramp, so be ready to go up the ramp. Okay. So it's at 12:30. It's separate checks. So sit with your significant other. So you pay one check, and the guy's very nice. He's going to take over. We have a big crowd. He was comfortable with 50, so I've been telling him we got 55, so he's going to arrange it. But I'll be there early to see that we get all seated. So please be there. It's going to be nice. It's going to be windy, but
Inside the diner?
no, outside. I'm worried about the ramp. I'm worried about the ramp. All right, thanks for notifying me, and we'll see you there. Thank you.
Is that a cash bar?
Okay, this week, I believe, is the last week for fantasy football. And our commissioner, by pure accident, is the leader, or is it one of the two? So he is going to turn around and explain what's going on. But we won't say anything else.
We are, I believe it's our 5th season. Maybe some of the guys out there can help me. I think it's our 5th season. We've had a very, very exciting season. We have a lot of people. It's really grown. I would just like to ask if you're involved with the fantasy football this year, just stand up so we get an idea.
My team's for sale.
And there's people that are, of course, involved. We have a protester right here, and we're not even playing the Star Spangled Banner. But I'm very happy to say Stan and I are in the finals, fighting for first place. I am the 9th ranked coach out of 12 teams. I drafted retired Tony Romo as my quarterback, and I'm playing in the finals. So you need to be lucky. You don't need to be a rocket scientist to do this. Probably anybody out there that has a team with one little play, one little call going against them, that could be what's determining who's in the finals. We also have Ed and Mike are playing for 3rd place. So good luck to all of you. If you're interested in getting involved with fantasy football, I'm already planning for next year, please see me at the end of the meeting. We have a lot of guys in it, and if we get a continued growth in the response, I'm not opposed to having 2 leagues and having a Super Bowl between the 2 leagues. So if you're interested, see me at the end of the meeting. Thank you.
One thing I've been reminded, tomorrow's luncheon, please wear your shirts, your blue shirts. So we'll fill the whole place up and everybody will stare at us. Mike, why don't you give you a little presentation? Keep it under an hour.
That's tough for Mike.
Yes, and in conclusion, the law breakfast is scheduled for Tuesday, March 20th, and so far we have everybody from the year before, the Burlington, Camden, Gloucester, and Salem County Police Chief Associations, and those counties, their prosecutors, plus FBI and state police, and a whole lots of others, and dozens of police chiefs will be at our conference, at the breakfast. We've done it since 1996, skipping a few years. And to give you an idea how it's planned, Rich Moskowitz is in charge of the food, and Bob Greenberg is in charge of the room, and Ed Stein is in charge of setup, check-in rather, and Rabbi Aaron helps coordinate with the clergy do. Dave Nydorf is in charge of video, and on and on and on. But everybody will be needing some help, so feel free to chip in.
We will need help in the kitchen. We start setting up around 6 o'clock in the morning. So if you can make it, please help. We have to cook, we have to set up. It's a lot of work, but it's a lot of fun too. And it's well worth it.
Is this going to be a temple of Manuel, I guess?
Yes, it'll be a Temple Emmanuel.
Yeah, Bob.
Yeah, we also will need people between 6 and 6:30 to help set up the room, because when the police arrive, they don't stand on ceremony. They come in. So if the room isn't set up, it's going to be chaos. So we need people between 6 and 6:30 to set up the room.
We usually have a couple hundred people there all together, and it works out nicely. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Good job.
After this meeting, there'll be an investment club, so stick around for that. One reminder also, an update on Rich Dutkin. He is at home, so if you want, give him a call or send him cards or do whatever is necessary. He's in a recovery program, and he's walking around. He still has to gather up his strength and put a little bit of weight on, but he's going to get there. Okay, since half of you came probably to eat and the other half came to listen to Nelson, so Dave Schwartz will make our introduction for Nelson.
Good morning. Good morning. Most of you know that Nelson is a longtime member of this group, and he will be speaking on the current status of the U.S. military compared to our past capabilities. In addition, Nelson will discuss the changing status of Jews in the military. He will also provide information to U.S. military veterans about receiving at least a $3,000 exemption on your New Jersey state income tax. Nelson Mellitz is a retired Air Force colonel. He is an honor graduate of the Air War College, National Defense University Advanced Condensed Courses, Air Command and Staff College, etc. Yeah. No, I'm not finished. Nelson is currently vice chairman. Nelson is currently vice chairman of the New Jersey Governor's Veterans Advisory Council. Wow! Welcome, Nelson.
Thank you, Dave. I didn't expect that introduction. He told me all he was going to say, here's Nelson, and that's what I expected. Okay, it is a pleasure to be here. Dave reminded me, it's been a long time since I've spoken to this group. Last time was when I came back from Iraq, back in 2006, and everybody handcuffed me and said, you got to speak about what your adventures were there. It turned out to be really amazing to me, to actually get it off my system. And I didn't talk about some of the things I saw there, but I did talk about the progress we were making. What I'm searching for is my Jewish War veteran hat, and I wanted to put that on. Give me a second here. Yeah, I left it in Iraq. Okay. Yeah, just give me a second. Before that, though, before 2006, I had an opportunity to speak to this club just a couple days after 9/11. It happened to be in Manhattan, downtown. That's where my office was, and I worked for the IRS at that time. So you can leave. Yeah, I know. Tax laws are changing. You can leave if you want. But I was right there, a couple blocks away from the World Trade Centers. And I think it was Mike at first, and then some other people said, please speak about your experiences there. Well, it just so happened that I was either going to be at the World Trade Center on that day, or I was going to be in the Pentagon, because I was supposed to be at a promotions board to make a determination on lieutenant colonels if they were moving up. And I got a call that Friday before, and saying they just don't have enough money to hold the board. It was the end of the fiscal year, and they were going to put it off a little bit. So I would have been in one of those places, no matter what the situation is. Okay, let me put my identity on. This is the Jewish War veteran hat. I was state commander back in 2005, 6, and 7, or whatever it says on the hat. I was also a chief of staff last year for the national commander. I'm quartermaster for Jewish War veterans. And I'd like to put on my hat to stress that Jews do serve, and we'll talk about that a little bit. These are the best of times. No, is Mort in the office? Yeah, Mort here? No, I'm not Mort Pomerantz. These are the best of times and some of the worst of times. Like Dave said, I'm going to give you a presentation on military in the current state, especially addressing the last 8 years, which was the Obama administration, currently what we're going to do. I'm also going to talk about Jews in the military, and I'll give you some numbers about Jews in the military since the Second World War, and a little bit about a Medal of Honor. And I'll talk some about getting you some money if you're veterans, because of the Jewish War veterans, American Legion, Veterans of Foreign Wars, DAV, and what we've done. Okay, let me conduct this like a classroom setting. I don't want you to fall asleep, so I'm going to ask some questions. You don't have to raise your hands. Just yell out the answers. And what I'm doing is, over the years, I've been asked questions about the military, things that might be of interest, and I know there are disclaimers, things that weren't correct, answers that you think are, which I don't think are correct. I know are not correct. Let me start out. As a percentage of the gross domestic product of the United States, again, a percentage, how much money do we spend on the military? Yell out your answers.
10%.
20%.
Okay, thank you. It varies. The answer is 4.9%. Is that too much or too little?
Little.
Well, yep, I agree it's too little too. But let's see what we're talking about. In 2016, $580.3 billion was spent on the military. Trump administration just has requested in their current budget revisions $692 billion. They're not going to get $692 billion because of something called sequestration. Sequestration was put in effect by the Obama administration in 2009 as an agreement with Congress to reduce defense spending. It reduces defense spending 10% every year, no matter what you need, no matter how many people you need in the military, no matter how many wars are going on. Sequestration can only be eliminated by Congress. So Trump might get $560 billion to support a military that has personnel at the lowest level since before the First World War. That's all the military. Sequestration has been in effect for about 9 years. At one time, before sequestration, we could fight 2.5 wars. Now, I'm not saying we could fight two major wars and a half a minor war, they call it, at this time, or do we have to? But we at least need to fight one war, possibly 1.5 wars, one major, one minor war. We can't do that. How long have we been fighting in Afghanistan and Iraq? Anybody remember?
16 years.
This is the longest war the United States has ever been in. 16 years. Some of our troops have been deployed to combat areas 10 times.
Wow.
Special forces have been deployed more than that. And I'm not saying they've been out there for a year. Even though the Army was deploying their people for a year At one time, you might remember they were keeping them there for 15 months, 18 months. In the Air Force, we were deploying people on a 6-month tour, and they're up to 10, 11 tours. Just think of yourself in that situation. How many separate operations, combat operations, is the United States involved in right now?
A dozen.
Dozen? Give me a number. Throw out a number, like classroom setting.
18.
Any other guesses? You're not even close.
30.
Getting closer.
42.
Okay, I'll stop it now. 38 combat operations. I just listed a few of the countries we're involved in. Afghanistan, Iraq, of course. Yemen, Philippines, Malaysia, Syria, Jordan, Kazakhstan, Morocco, Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, United Arab Emirates, Oman, Turkey, Ukraine, and it goes on and on. These are active combat operations that our people are in. How many were we involved in during the Obama administration? What's your guess?
9.
38. Trump hasn't changed anything. We're continuing those operations. Let me ask a question a little bit different than what I was just talking about. And this is something that comes up on the news all the time, especially on CNN and Fox. Can the President of the United States push the button on that nuclear football that's being carried around by that, usually a captain in the Navy or somebody, with him all the time, and then missiles fire off? What's your answer, yes or no?
No. Yes.
Okay, got a yes here. Anybody else say yes?
Yes.
Well, you're wrong. He could push that button all day long, and the missiles are not going to fire off. He could put his codes in there all day long. The missiles are not going to fire off. What happens is... Yeah, good point. Username. You might as well be sitting at this table. Did you hear us yelling at this table this morning? We have a great conversation. Okay. This is a great group. We like to talk to each other very loudly and say crazy things. No, what really happens if President Trump puts his code in there and pushes the button? It goes to a 4-star general. 4-star general says, is this a legal operation that is going to take place? And within a few minutes, he contacts some other generals, even if it's not legal or not. He verifies what's happening. He talks to a couple people in the missile silos saying, do you think this is right? All within 10 minutes, they make a decision if they're going to fire the missiles or not. If they're going to notify the submarines at sea that they should fire their missiles. If they're going to launch the bombers, should they fire those, get those bombers launched from different bases. President Trump or Obama or Clinton or Carter or anybody never had the ability to push that button and fire off those missiles.
That's comforting.
Yeah, it was in a movie, wasn't it? It's in several different movies. White House Down. Get the right codes in there. They can't fire those missiles. I'm saying that because it's a disclaimer. The president has a lot of power. There's no question about that. But he can't fire those missiles. He can't set our troops out in combat and tell them what to do. It has to go through a series of generals and colonels and other people, and civilian force especially. And the civilians are actually the ones that make the decisions within the military, not the generals, about what we should do in the next operation.
Clarify that. Secretary of War, stuff like that.
Remember, the military's there to serve the civilian population.
Correct.
George Washington created a civilian force, militia he called it.
Okay.
We have carried that forward. Who's in charge of the Joint Chiefs of Staff? A civilian secretary. It is always a civilian.
Okay.
Who's in charge of the Air Force? A civilian.
Right.
All the services. And that's the way it's been forever, but it was clarified under the Goldwater Amendment back in 1986. Military is not in charge. Civilians will always be in charge. Our government, our military, and I'm taking this out too far, but great question. Our military is here to serve the civilian population. That is why we don't have military coups. Our military will not overthrow the government like you have in many other countries. It's not the way we do it. Mike, could you push the button, please? Oh, thank you. Okay, this is the most advanced tank in the world. Would you say that was an Abrams? Let me get back here if you don't mind.
Looks like an Abrams.
It's not in Abrams. What country do you think?
It's the latest.
It's the latest, most advanced tank. This tank has the missile capability. We can fire missiles at missiles. It has an electronic system that can actually divert missiles from wherever they're coming in on the tank. Who makes that tank? Israel. No, Israel does not have the latest tank. Israel has a great tank for their purposes. This is a Russian tank. The Russians are actually mass producing these tanks and getting them out to Syria and all their allies in the world. Okay, you see this aircraft carrier? Whose is it? Chinese. It's Chinese, you're exactly right. You can probably see that from the markings. The Chinese have how many aircraft carriers out there now? One. Yeah, it's one now. How many will they have by 2025? 20. At least 5. How many will they have after 2025? Everybody's guessing. They're saying at least 10, 15. Let's keep the slide on here. How many aircraft carriers does the United States have? 5. Any other guesses? You haven't hit it yet.
About 15. 4. Under 4.
We have 10 active aircraft carriers. Some people say 19, but those other 9 are actually sitting in mothballs. Actually, 2 of them are in the Philadelphia Navy Yard. When you go on 95, you'll see them on the left-hand side. They will never be recommissioned. I don't care what anybody says. You take a look at the rust on those things. They're old. They'd have to be completely done over. They will never be recommissioned. 10 aircraft carriers. Okay, let me ask you another question. What happened on April 14th, 2014? How many aircraft carriers did we have at sea? Give me guesses. Classroom setting. Just throw it out. How many at sea? 3, you say? 4?
3. 2.
Any other guesses? Out of the 10, how many at sea?
2. When you landing on the ship?
No, it doesn't work that way, but thank you. Okay. At least it shouldn't work that way because you left out the Middle East. Okay, and other places. 0.
Wow.
Do you feel safe?
I did tell you.
This is not a secret briefing. This is common knowledge to the people that read it in defense news and see elsewhere. 0. What happened was, because of training faults, problems, as well as the timing of the ships being at sea, we had not a single aircraft carrier. That was our defense, one of the major defenses at sea. And when somebody figured out in the Pentagon, actually the newspapers figured it out and told the Pentagon, you don't have any ships at sea, we know it, they quickly accelerated the resupply of a couple ships out of Norfolk and sent one out to the Atlantic, the other one out to the Pacific. And what about that crazy guy in North Korea? If he would have known that, what would he do? Yeah, probably would have. Okay. 0 at sea. Let's go to the next slide. That's a great ship. You see the front of that ship actually goes up like that? Our ships are going to have that soon. Oh, by the way, this ship has an electronic launcher on it. Actually, instead of the steam launchers that capture the ship, they capture the airplanes and pull them back. Thank you. I should have asked you. Okay. And that's what they're designing at Lakehurst now for our ships, and they will be implemented soon. Who knows what that means? Okay. Who makes this aircraft? That's a B-52. Let me help you out here. Everybody's heard of B-52. Yeah, isn't that a fantastic aircraft? When was it first commissioned into the U.S. Air Force inventory?
1952.
You're all very close. It was designed in the late 1940s. It was commissioned in 1952, the first one in there. How many do we still have flying?
Most of them. All of them.
Well, some were shot down in Vietnam. We have 76 still flying. We have pilots of these planes that are grandchildren of the people that originally flew the planes.
60-year-old plane.
Do you want to fly in a 60-year-old plane?
I don't want to drive in a 60-year-old car.
Neither do I. Well, I don't know. Thank you. This is part of our triad of defense, B-52s. They have not replaced them with B-1s or B-2s or anything else.
Why?
Money. They're planned to fly through 2050.
Oh my God.
Yeah, oh my God. If they get new engines. And the new engines are going to cost billions of dollars, but Lockheed Martin and Boeing are bidding on that. Wow. That's a fantastic aircraft too, isn't it?
What about this one? Not real.
It's a rendition. Obama canceled that program in 2013 or 2014. to actually have that advanced bomber aircraft that would have gone in space and then come back down. It would have had other functions, actually being a spy plane. It would have been the most advanced plane, more advanced than the F-35 that we're selling to Israel and other countries.
What was the reason for that?
Money. Partly sequestration, partly his priorities were the military doesn't need it. He had a plan in place that showed that the military did need it. It was his own plan that was developed in 2010, shooting out for the next 10 years what we need. And then he decided to cancel it. There was no real rationale behind that. Submarines, we're actually commissioning one submarine every 2 years, it looks like now. Brand new tactical as well as strategic submarines. Good.
Real power in under the water.
It's one of the triads. We're just talking about submarines. You have the triad is the bombers, the missiles, and the submarines. The submarines, we need more of them, but they are being commissioned. There's 3 on contract now for really advanced submarines, nuclear powered, that'll stay underwater, and the Russians still can't find them because they're so silent. And that's fantastic. That's the one part of the triad that's still out there functioning the way it should be. Okay, well, you can see this is some country out there. What country is that from?
North Korea.
North Korea, obviously. People know their history and could see flags. That was from let's see if I have a date on here. It was just a couple months ago. It was in a parade in North Korea, and they were threatening the United States. They're going to use their missiles to fire on the United States. And of course, they do have the capability, according to them and the CIA, to fire on the United States with their missiles. That's scary, isn't it? Okay, what aircraft is this?
KC, some Hercules.
And the other answer is nobody's gotten it yet. You're close. It's obviously an Air Force tanker.
That's what I was saying, the KC, the 130.
It's not a 130. It's not a 141. It's not.
No, it's a tanker.
You're right. It's a tanker. Bill, you're right. It is a tanker. It's the KC-46A. I put this in here because the McGuire's going to get 18 of these sometime in the summer. It's the brand new tanker. It's taken over 10 years to get it under contract with Boeing, and the contract was canceled numerous times. They were going to have something like 60 of them, and that's why McGuire Air Force Base is going to stay open, the 46. And when it gets on the base, I'm going to try to arrange for a tour for everybody in the men's club with the Jewish War veterans. Okay, in addition to that, we're getting the C-130 gunships, which have never been stationed at McGuire Air Force Base before, and we'll try to arrange for a tour of that. But the thing that's really fascinating about McGuire is they have a simulator on there for some of their fantastic aircraft that looks like you're in Disney World. They wouldn't let me actually on the simulator, but you can see it going up and down. It's just like you see something in the movies. And that's something I'd like you to see. Yeah, I know the guy in charge of that, but I don't know if he can get a security clearance on that. But we'll see. That's what I'm going to try for. That would be a fantastic opportunity. In addition to going to the New Jersey battleship, that would be fantastic too.
Nelson,
yes.
Isn't there such a thing as a black budget where additional monies are allocated for military?
Yes, and that's been in debate for a long time. There is a war budget, they call it, for the most part, or a contingency budget. For example, what's covered under that is the additional Iraq operations and Afghanistan operations for the last 16 years.
Is that separate from the amount you said?
It is separate from that amount. It's additional money. What happens is the Pentagon goes before the Congress with the President's permission in March and in September of every year says, we believe there's either extra money here or here's money we need for contingency operations. For example, with all the hurricanes we recently had in Puerto Rico and elsewhere in the United States, the Pentagon was the single largest responders, not FEMA, not the state. Pentagon was billions of dollars. They asked for additional money to cover those expenses. That's the supplemental budget, they call it. But yeah, the budget will increase from that standpoint. That is not subject to sequestration as long as Congress authorizes it. Okay, good question. Okay, by 2018, like I said, we'll have delivery of these aircraft. They're tankers. I believe that's an F-22, but I'm not sure. It could be an F-35. I think it's a 22. That's one of the latest aircraft, but yet the assembly line was shut down in 2010, opened in 2011, then shut down in 2012 with the F-22s. The F-35, that assembly line will be shut down unless Trump does something about it. What's going on here? This is in Syria, by the way. Whose aircraft is that? Yeah, it's Russian. Putin, I think, announced 6 months ago, somewhere around there, he was pulling out troops and he was going to close down his airfield in Syria. Did he actually do it? No. Of course not. He moved around his troops, he added more aircraft, and now he has a permanent base in Syria. How close is Syria to Israel? It's right on the border with each other. Now, they do have a flying agreement between Israel and Syria, but now Syria, Russians, Iran have some of the latest Russian aircraft out there in Syria.
Yeah, but they don't know how to use it.
What's that?
They may not know how to use it.
The Russians are some of the best pilots in the world.
Not the Russians.
Oh, Syrians. Well, we trained a lot of Syrian pilots, you know that.
Yeah, we were wrong.
Yeah. What he was saying was they may not know how to use it. No, when we train the Syrian pilots, they're good. And they use Russian aircraft now. Pretty much not ours. Again, Russians have a permanent base in Syria. Israel has to worry about that. The United States has to worry about that. Even if we have an aircraft carrier in the Mediterranean, you still have to worry about it. Okay, well, I don't have to tell you where this is from. This is China, obviously. Who's going to be the first country to land people on Mars? China. What kind of program do we have in the United States? Well, we have some commercial civilian programs. They're not even looking at Mars. Well, they're looking at Mars, but they're not going to be there. China's claiming that they will have people on Mars by 2020, and actually by 2019 they'll have people on the moon. When was the last time we put somebody on the moon? Anybody remember?
75.
Exactly. Early 70s. What happened to that program? Boy, when I was a kid, most of us were kids at that time. We thought we were going to take commercial flights to the moon. Yeah, that didn't happen, did it? Wouldn't that be fantastic? Just sample some of their missiles, and they convert some of these missiles over to launches for satellites, everything else. We do still have the most sophisticated, largest GPS system of satellites up in the sky. But that'll be overtaken pretty soon by either the Russians or the Chinese. And there's some other countries out there launching satellites too, maybe even Israel. Okay. And one more. What is that? Airship. How much money does the, well, let me put it a different way. The United States is a heavy seller of weapons overseas. How much money do we have in sales overseas each year? Well, not too far off. $42 billion in sales. Remember President Eisenhower warning us about the military complex? Military-industrial complex. That was his words, correctly. Well, we're one of the biggest sellers. In fact, we are the biggest seller of weapons overseas. We have competition with countries like Russia, who sells to a lot of Arab countries, and China sells quite a bit, and China's going to surpass us eventually. But who is the sixth largest seller of weapons overseas?
Israel.
Israel, exactly right. Technology. Is there anything wrong with that? I don't think so. I wish we didn't sell any weapons. I wish nobody had any weapons.
So where's our money going to?
Yeah, good question.
Paying $5,000.
Where's our money going to? It goes into the Treasury, some of it. Some of it goes to the corporations. Could you turn the lights on, whoever's back there? That's the last slide I have, and I just wanted to talk to you. Okay, how many ships do we have at sea right now? Well, how many ships do we have in the Navy? Let me put it that way. How many ships? 287 to cover the entire world. Obama's own plan, 10-year plan, said to have how many? 340. These are all the Navy ships. Trump's plan is to have 350. He's not going to get 350 for at least 2-3 years. He has to get rid of sequestration to do that. You don't build a ship in 1 year anyhow.
Right.
Can those ships we have at sea and those sailors that are fewer sailors now since the beginning of the Second World War, actually function and give us security that we need, my opinion is no. Again, I'm giving you facts. Okay, what's happened over the last 10 years? What's happened over the last 15 years?
How about since Vietnam?
If you want to go back to Vietnam, which ended officially in 1975, we know that we were supposed to have a peace dividend because we wouldn't have to invest so much money in war in Vietnam. There was no peace dividend. That peace dividend was supposed to use for a domestic program. Never happened. Did our national debt go down? Well, what is it, 20 trillion now? It hasn't gone down, it's gone up in the last few years considerably. Will we ever pay that off? And I know Art said, you never pay off the national debt. You never will. Even with the Clinton surplus, the national debt still existed. Not so much, but there was a surplus in what he was spending between the government expenditures on a one-year basis and what they were taking in. Thank the IRS for that. They take your money. Okay, let me change subjects a little bit again. And what bothered me, and I know I'm taking a little bit longer than I anticipated on this section, but I think it's interesting. Remember that guy that left his base, Bo Dahl, from the United States Army? Yeah, he turned out later to be a traitor and actually was captured by the Taliban for 5 years. You remember in Israel we had that one guy that was captured by the Arab Palestinians, the Ghazi. What's his name? What was his name? Gilad, for all those years. Why did the United States, and Israel has a similar code, go after these people with such a force to get their people back? Because the Army code, which applies to the Marines, the Navy, the Air Force, the Coast Guard, everybody says, we leave nobody behind. I remember people saying specifically against Israel is, why is Israel going after so many Palestinians, trying to capture this one person? Just leave them there and don't even worry about them. Israel, the United States, a few other Western countries have that same philosophy. We leave nobody behind, and we also fight in overwhelming force, greater force than anybody else. We try to make sure our troops are properly equipped. Israel does the same thing. Some other countries do the same thing. And we go in there and we make sure we win battles. That hasn't really been our philosophy for the last 7 or 8 years. Now it's changing back to what it should be. We leave nobody behind. We fight battles to win. We haven't had too many wins in the last 60 years, I guess. No. Maybe that should change. What's the purpose of the military? What's the primary purpose of the military right now? Good. Good answer. Humanitarian answers. Humanitarian. We know all over the world the United States military is used primarily for peacekeeping operations, humanitarian operations. You can think of the hurricanes, you can think of the typhoons, the tsunamis, and everything else that's been involved. The military is the first responders. And my time in Iraq, again, in 2005, 2010, I believe it was December 2000, I'm sorry, not 2005, 2010, 2005, 2006, I believe it was December 2005, they had that election. Do you remember the Iraqis holding up their thumb with the blue paint on it or whatever it was? Voting. Here was the ballot that they were all filling out. Remember how long the lines were? Yeah. I don't think it was because there was a lot of people in lines, because they were filling out these ballots with all these different parties listed on them. Wow. But this was the ballot. I went downstairs in the U.S. Embassy and he gave me about 60, the guy in charge of this. Please be careful when I hand this out. It's something I want to pass on to my kids. Okay, I also have some campaign posters I didn't bring in from they had on the walls in Iraq. But it was actually democracy in action to whoever voted, whoever wanted to vote, and we're protected by us. So the U.S. military first function is not war, not to fight, but peace operations. The last resort of the politicians, I hope, will continue to be using the military. Any questions before I go forward with the Jewish war veterans and how many military? Please go ahead.
Nelson, Trump's edict or whatever to the, I guess, the chief of staff, that they have full authority to do whatever they have to do to act on behalf of the country?
No. That's the news interpreting it. Obama, every last bomb that was dropped under his administration. He's not the only president that's done it. Johnson did it too. Kennedy did it in Vietnam. But Obama had a task force of people, no military in there, that every bomb that was dropped, every shot that was fired in Afghanistan, Iraq, and a lot of these other countries had to be cleared to be shot, had to be done by his task force. It delayed the general's operations. What Trump has done is given a War Power Act, he calls it, to his generals on the ground to actually take more action independently, including using the aircraft, the Navy ships, the Army on the ground. So that's why ISIS is not destroyed, but it's in a little box in Iraq right now. And almost all their leaders are killed. Just like Israel, you kill the leaders, and you kill the next leader, and the next leader, and then the people go home because they don't have any leaders. But the war's not over with ISIS. Smart country. Please, go ahead.
Do you think we should go back to maybe a partial volunteer army?
I've been asked that question. The question is, should we go back to a partial volunteer army? I think we should go back to a social army where you have to serve. It could be serving in the Peace Corps, AmeriCorps, something in the United States. Every teenager getting out of high school should be serving. If they want to serve in the military, yes. When I was in Iraq and other places in the world, I didn't want a draftee next to me that didn't want to be there. Now, the draftees did fantastic in Vietnam. Of course, World War II, 16 million, about 8 million were draftees, probably a little bit more than my guess. And they did fantastic, they won the war. But I want to give that option. And so to answer your question, and you know who's pushing to have a draft? The Democrats. That's unbelievable, but they are. And the Republicans are against it. But I want somebody who wants to be there. Okay, just a couple more questions, then we go on. Please.
Nelson, there's been a lot of naval accidents in the last 2 years resulting in death and ships being damaged. You want to comment on that?
Oh, yeah. The preliminary report on the last 4 naval ships hitting something else was unbelievable. And Art and myself were just talking about that at the table. They were putting, because of training problems, they didn't have money to train people, and the captains of the ship and the admirals were putting people untrained, unqualified to man the ships in their different positions. They hit other things. The last one, which was at a cruiser, I believe, no, it was a destroyer, hit an oil tanker. People were never trained to actually be lookouts, to actually man the steering of the ship, and I'm not Navy, I'm Air Force. I don't know what it's called. But they were literally given like a day or 2 training and said, look at this dial. Like I mentioned to Art a few minutes ago, that reflects all the way up to the Naval Operations Chief, who happened to be a 3-star admiral and is Jewish. He had the potential to move up to the Chief of Naval Operations, and he was going to move up, but now he's fired. He's not going to move up. It just happened to be Jewish, but it was his fault. The responsibility for that starts at the top, training, and goes down. And all this is related to sequestration. If you don't have money, you put it toward the things you think are necessary, and I think training's necessary, and it was mistakes. Aircraft, Navy Hornets, F-18s. They were grounded twice this year because of maintenance problems. Air Force, the F-22s, they were grounded once, every last one of them. They couldn't fly. The 46 tankers that you saw up here, they're behind schedule by at least 2 years. That's on top of the 10 years from the procurement cycle where they couldn't even award a contract. There's problems. Any other questions? One more question, then I'll go on to the Jewish War veteran. Please, Larry.
Yeah, and you made us aware that you think the military budget underspends in things like aircraft and ships. But are there areas where you think the military budget is off base in terms of being too excessive, like procurement and bureaucracy? We all hear the stories about the $6,000 hammers and whatnot. Do you see areas where you think things are bloated, that could be done better so that money can then be diverted to target?
Well, to answer your question, the question really is too much money going into certain areas in the military? Yes, there is. And there has to be a up-down review or a down-up review, whichever president wants to call it, whatever. Okay, one area in particular I think there's too much attention being spent is the remote aircraft the UAVs, the VAUs, and all the other stuff out there. I'm one of those old-fashioned people where I think we still need people in charge of those aircraft, actually in those aircraft, to make decisions. They've taken a lot of money away from the Eli. I'm sure you could read that. But he's one of the few people that can read the Arabic. I'm one of those people that believe they took money away from the aircraft, the formal, the F-22s, the F-35s, and tanker aircraft, to put into the UAVs because they didn't want the people to be in combat. Also, the remote-controlled ground devices, the ones that go into the ground thing, the little tanks that are controlled, that's the bomb detectors and things. I think we spent enough money in that area. I'm not saying stop it, but things of that area. One area I think we have to concentrate on, I didn't mention already, is electronics. We've been attacked almost every day in the Pentagon, everywhere else it seems like, electronically by the Russians, the Chinese, the North Koreans, etc., and we haven't put up a good defense against that. Okay, I know I'm running out of time, so let me go on.
What about these combat search and rescue helicopters? What's the story with that?
We have recently led a contract for about $10 billion to replace 56 and more. That's the option on the contract for the new combat rescue helicopters. Okay, I know Bill's son's actually a helicopter pilot in the Air Force. He's a rescue helicopter pilot, soon to be promoted to lieutenant colonel. He's in Afghanistan as we speak. Okay, I recruited him for the Air Force Academy. Great kid.
He also has the Distinguished Flying Forces.
Yeah, he's a kid's really fantastic. Let's give Bill a round of applause. It's not all doomsday. Got a lot of really good people in the military. You have a lot of good people in the civilian side working for the military. And I'm sure they'll turn things around. It's just the last 8 years have been very depressing. And we have not fulfilled our responsibility as a military member to the civilians of the United States to keep you safe. And that's something we have to concentrate on. Okay, yeah, real fast with the Jewish War veterans. Jewish War veterans were formed in 1890. Oh, well, let me ask a question first. Who's a veteran? Please raise your hand. Repeat after me. I. No, I'm just joking with you.
I am a veteran.
No, I was going to join you up. Okay, I have applications to the Jewish War veterans on the back table. But this is not a recruiting speech. The Jewish War Veterans was formed in 1896 to fight the predominant feeling among the U.S. people that the U.S. does not have Jews serving in the Civil War and elsewhere. That feeling has continued for many, many years, but we fight that. Let me give you some numbers. World War II, and real fast. How many Jews do you think served in World War II in the U.S. military? Give me a guess.
500,000.
From anybody but Bill. He's close. How many Jews?
Percentage of the Jews in the United States?
Very good. We actually exceeded the percentage. Very good, Rabbi. Any other guesses? 550,000 Jews in the United States military. Worldwide, counting Russia, there was about 300, Britain, those in Palestine, and other areas. There was about 2 million Jews that served in Allies militaries. You know, whoever said Jews didn't serve and fight the Nazis and the Japanese and everybody else, they served. It's just they don't talk about it. You read a neo-Nazi magazine, you'll see no Jew served. Who had a father or grandfather, an uncle, an aunt, or mother that served in the World War II? Almost all of us. Thank you.
Anybody a veteran now from World War II in this room?
Is there any World War II veteran? Good question. Very few. They're around now. They're dying it used to be 2,000 a day. Dave wins a World War II veteran. Dave wins now. Dave's my friend, and I'm not going to say it. I know Dave. No. Okay, let's go on before we get into a fight. That's good. Korean War, 150,000 Jews served in Korea during that 3 years. Vietnam War, 350,000 Jews served in country or in support countries of that country. War on Terror, we've had an estimated, which is September 11th, 2001 to present. It's an estimated 250,000 Jews. How many Jews have been killed in Afghanistan and Iraq that have identified themselves as Jews? Give me a guess.
380.
No, not that much that we know about.
280.
It's 57 that have identified themselves as Jews. The Jewish War Veterans makes it a practice to keep track of Jews that have been killed. The number's actually higher, but some of the families say don't use their names, don't divulge the numbers. They're not interested in that. So the number we use is 57. That's still a significant number out of the 4,500. Still, 57 Jews you might not know about. Go to the Jewish War Veterans national website and you'll see their pictures and their names, where they come from.
And that includes one from Cherry Hill?
Jeremy Kane, whose mother's a Gold Star mother, very active, a councilwoman. She's actually on the transition team for the new governor. She's a Jewish War Veterans member. She's fantastic, and she's on our board of directors. Jeremy Kane. Everybody knew about Jeremy Kane, I hope, from Cherry Hill.
Yes.
That was another tragic. He saved the lives of many people. Again, how many Medal of Honor recipients that are Jewish since the First World War?
I'd say 75.
Nah, not that high. Bill, I don't want you calling out anymore. Bill's heard a lot of numbers. He knows what he's talking about. No, it's actually 16, which is significant also. 16. World War I, we had a couple. Actually, we had a lot more than that during the Civil War. There was actually about 10 Jews during the Civil War, but all their medals were taken back, believe it or not, with everybody else's that didn't meet the criteria that was put in place in the First World War. So, yeah, I wouldn't have returned that medal, but they actually took them off the list. Please.
Originally, that was the only medal besides the Purple Heart that was awarded. And that's where the controversy was, that they wanted to give someone a medal. And then they had to change the criteria. It had to be some type of a very heroic action.
Exactly.
That's why they took all the other medals back.
And that's a valid point. And now Congress even said you can't go back unless there's a change in the laws to anything beyond, I think, 7 years or 10 years. I don't remember the number. So they're only going to be awarding to the the war on terror people right now. We were able to go back. Lenny Kravitz is the famous singer, his uncle. We were able to get him a Korean War Medal of Honor. He well deserved it. Tibor Rubin also. I don't have time to give Tibor Rubin. He's a Holocaust survivor. He was captured by the Koreans when he was fought in the Korean War after saving hundreds of U.S. lives. He saved the lives of his prisoner of war companions, and he's offered an opportunity to go to Hungary because that's where he's originally from. Just recently passed away. We got him the Medal of Honor. He well deserved. Look at his story. Fantastic stories. Jews that fight in the military. Okay, I'm not sure if you guys came to hear me speak, but I know you came to hear about the $3,000 exemption. Please go ahead.
The video in the just before the cafe gives you the history of a lot of the Jews during the Civil War.
I forgot about that. Downstairs, like you're saying, where the cafe is located, the Holocaust Museum, you'll see a wall with pictures. Above the pictures, you'll see the Medal of Honor winners and some history behind Jews in the military. JCC, the Federation, was very happy for us to put that up. We're also going to put up a wall in the Senior Citizens Lounge when we get it done with additional information. And thank you for mentioning, I did forget about that. If you are a veteran and you join the Jewish War Veteran, we are revising that wall with those pictures. We'd like to put your picture up. So that's a little incentive for you. Like I said, applications in the back. There's a whole series of benefits you get as veterans. I have not as many forms as I thought I would need, but I have forms that income tax exemption for veterans as a result of the Jewish War Veterans. 2017, you could file for a $3,000 tax exemption if you fought during a period of war, if you have an honorable discharge or discharge as a result of medical, and there's some other qualifications on there. You need to fill out this form. You can do it electronically. Go to your congressman's website. They all seem to have it up there. Go to the Department of Military and Veterans Affairs website. We will have it up on the Post 126 Jewish War Veterans website by next week. But if you need a copy to fill out, send it in. You'll get an acknowledgement from the State Treasury Department that they received it, and they've been taking 3 months to process it. Don't wait until April 17th when your taxes are due to submit this. You're not going to get it. You need to submit it now.
Does that apply to widows, Nelson?
It does.
What's the website again?
I couldn't hear you.
What's the website, or where can you get this?
Go to your go to Beach's website, Senator Beach's website. He has it up there. And look for the Veterans Income Tax Exemption for Veterans form. You can submit it electronically on his website. I didn't do it electronically because I don't trust his system. I filled it out, I sent it in, I got an acknowledgement. They're going to ask for a copy of your DD-214. If you have other discharge papers, you need to talk to me.
Is that a division of taxation form?
Yes, it is.
Then it's probably on the division.
It is, in fact, thank you. Art knows a lot about it. That's where I went to get my form.
I got an email.
Oh.
Because I prepare my parents' tax return. I got an email from the Division of Taxation saying that according to their records, he's eligible for the exemption. So I imagine others of you have received an email.
Yeah. This is purely state. Okay, yeah. If you registered for the tax abatement, which I think is $500 now, like in Camden County, Gloucester has the same thing, Burlington County has the same thing. Your name was sent to the Treasury Department, the state, and they're supposed to send you that email, but I don't rely on state doing that. And they're supposed to tell you to fill out this form, like Art said.
Nelson, if I may,
Please, go ahead.
who's first before I go?
Was somebody else on?
Who had their hand up a minute ago? Was the 2018 tax bill affect this exemption going forward?
Yes, it's in the law now. It will be continuous for 3 years, exemption.
That will remain even though you don't have personal exemption.
But it's not federal, it's state.
It's state. Well, let's make it clear again. This is state. I'm saying New Jersey.
It's only in the state.
Only state. Okay, again, we passed the law in 2017 and it applies to 2017 tax return that you're filing now, or you will be filing starting January 1st. And it applies all future years too. Okay, but you have to fill out this form. Yeah, once you fill out the form, I think that's your question, then it goes forward. You only have to fill it out one time.
How about military reserves?
Were you in for 180 days during a time of war? Were you in, or were you activated for 180 days, other than training? Okay, here's my advice for everybody. Fill it out. Let them reject you. What are they going to do? They're going to come to your house and ask you for $3,000? They're not going to do anything. They'll either accept you or reject you. Fill out the form. If you need help filling it out, ask me. Ask somebody else from Jewish War Veterans. We'll help you out. But don't assume you're not eligible. Fill it out. Okay. That, again, real fast, it generates another question. I was at the State Assembly last week where they were discussing who's a veteran, because there's different definitions from the federal government, from Veterans Affairs, from the state, from the local area. The state, as of now, classifies veterans as those individuals that were in the military during a period of war, and there's specific periods of war that the federal government says. And that's it. And in order to change that, which we will change this year, you need a constitutional amendment, which goes on a ballot, and we're planning on getting it in the November ballot. Isn't that stupid? Yeah. It is stupid, but this is the top level lawyers who are interpreting the law that was put in place long before they got in. Mm-hmm. So we have to get a constitutional amendment to say everybody's a veteran that served, National Guard, reserves, active duty.
Nelson, one more thing. On the state form where you think if you don't hear anything, make certain you have an extra copy of the form you fill out. And this way, when you do your income tax and your tax guy don't have it or doesn't get it, you can let him send that copy in and you'll still be covered, as long as you do it by April 15th. I sent mine in, but I haven't heard anything yet.
Yeah, you're supposed to.
I have a quick question.
Please, go ahead.
I applied for VA benefits, medical benefits.
Yes.
And my income's too high. But then I talked to other guys who get medical benefits.
You get medical benefits. Somebody told you the wrong information. We'll talk afterwards. That's beyond the scope of this, but you could get something. Okay, real fast. I know Marty's going to get the hook on me real fast.
3-minute warning.
Okay, 100% tax abatement for 100% disabled in accordance with Veterans Affairs. Spouse pensions who some veterans, after they pass away, of course the spouse gets the veterans benefits if they qualify. Well, if you're a World War II veteran, there's none in here. Korean War veterans, I bet you money that I could get you a pension and your spouse. Sewer and township tax reduction for veterans, you get that. If you haven't gotten it in all these years, you're hurting yourself. Veterans Affairs cards is going to be rolled out. It's a new Veterans Affairs card that every veteran gets. no matter when you served, from Veterans Affairs, Department of Veterans Affairs, federal government. It is not used for benefits, but it'll get you a 10% discount at Lowe's, Home Depot, Applebee's, and some other food places. And it's good for identification. What's that?
No, I understand.
I'll get you a psychiatrist, therapist discounts in his office also. He'll give you a 20% discount.
Also, a lot of the stores, I have a Burlington County Veterans ID card.
Yeah.
They accept that too, so if you have a county veterans card, unless most of the places will accept it. I know Lowe's and Home Depot.
Okay, they'll accept. The last thing. Okay, Mike Perloff, some other people want to have a Camden County, a Burlington County, a Gloucester County medals presentation to the veterans. If you haven't received your county medals yet, we also have state medals. We want to have a presentation at one of our meetings in the future. That's where we're planning. What I'm going to do, going through our president, Marty, is actually giving you forms or referring you to websites. Fill out the forms. We want to present a medal to you in front of your families, in front of your friends, and other people in the room. And we'll take care of you. But that's something that is a service of the South Jersey Men's Club. Thank you very much. I took too long. Thank you.
Nelson, certificate of appreciation, you can add that with all the other extras you've got.
Thank you.
Again, it was enlightening.
All right, that's a good one.
All right.
Thanks again, Nelson.
Thank you, thank you. It's a pleasure to be a member.
Last thing, it's time to do a 50-50 draw.
Here we go. There we go.
Is it down there? That must be it. I'll hold it. Pick mine.
I didn't buy a ticket this time, so it's, I think, fair. 734-594. 594.
I'm still looking. Look at that.
Yeah, right here. Oh!
A newbie.
How much is it?
I don't know. How much? Phil, how much? $57 is a share you win. See the ticket? Last three digits of 594? Huh?
594, that's it.
You can split it with the rest of us. All right, guys. Have a...
See you tomorrow.
Happy New Year. See you tomorrow.